Back now at 7:36 with what some are calling the biggest courthouse scandal in U.S. history. 2 judges in Pennsylvania convicted in a so-called cash for kids scheme. And now one mother says her son died because of one of those judges. We're going to talk to her in just a moment. But first, NBC's Jeff Rawson has the details now. Hey, Jeff, good morning.
Hi, Ann. Good morning to you. That judge sent hundreds of kids to jail for minor crimes while taking kickbacks from the jail itself. This morning, he's been convicted along with another judge, but that wasn't enough for one of the victim's mothers who confronted him outside of court. The dramatic scene caught on tape.
Do you remember me? Do you remember me? Do you remember my son? An all-star wrestler? He's good. He shot himself in the heart. You ruined my life.
Sandy Fonzo couldn't hold back face to face with the judge, the man she blames for her son's death.
No, you know what he told everybody in court? They need to be held accountable for their actions. You need to be. Do you remember me?
Ed Kenzakowski was only 17 years old, arrested for a minor drug crime, his first offense. Judge Michael Ciavarella sentenced Ed to 6 months in a juvenile detention center. According to legal experts, an unusually strict punishment. He served the time, but his mother says he was never the same after he got out. Years later, Ed committed suicide.
He was just a regular 17-year-old happy kid. You know, we had a regular, normal, happy life. Then that one incident that we had to go stand in front of that judge was a turning point. He shackled him, took him away, and that was the end.
Prosecutors say Judge Ciavarella was secretly cashing in as he sent kids to jail, taking kickbacks of nearly $1 million from the company that ran the jail. When Sandy Fonzo saw him after court, she let loose.
My kid's not here. He's dead because of him. He ruined my life. I'd like him to go to hell and rot there forever.
The bottom line is that his greed took the life of my son. I don't think there's anything worse than what he could have done. The pain that he created and the lies and the deceit and everything behind it, I mean, it just makes me sick.
Ciavarella was convicted on 12 of 39 counts, including racketeering and money laundering. Plus, he has to return all the money.
Absolutely never took a dime to send a kid anywhere. If that was the case, that would have been in this trial. You don't think the government would have put me on trial for that if that was the case? Never happened. Never, ever happened.
He faces up to 157 years in prison, but this morning he's home with his family until sentencing. A freedom Sandy Fonzo finds outrageous.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I can't even take this.
I know it won't bring my son back, but I just want an apology from him. I want him to say that he was wrong and that he is sorry. I just want him to admit his guilt, finally.
We called Ciavarella and his lawyer about Sandy's accusations. They declined to comment. By the way, another judge, Michael Conahan, is also involved in this kickback scheme. He's pled guilty now to racketeering. Both could be sentenced in a matter of months. Ann?
All right, Jeff Rawson, thank you so much. Sandy Fonzo is with us along with her attorney, Marsha Levitt. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
You were just watching that tape as we showed it, and it didn't seem as though yelling gave you any peace. It's as if you're really in this knot of pain.
I think it was good for me to be there at that moment and actually, you know, speak right to him and tell him right to his face the pain that he's created and what he's done to my son. So maybe, you know, when everything calms down, it'll feel like maybe a layer has come off. I mean, this has been years and years of, and it's still, there's just no closure to him. I just want to see him, you know, I just want to see some justice. I want to see some justice for these kids, and, you know, I want to know my life's son was not in vain. My son's death was not in vain.
You, more than perhaps anyone else, can really express how this sentence affected your son, how this judge's sentence affected your son. How would you describe it?
He changed him. He ripped him out of our home, out of our life. He never looked into, you know, the whole picture of the kids. Like I said, he lined them up one by one and he sent them away, shackled them, sent them to places that, you know, God knows what went on, and then he throws them back. And how does a kid deal with that? You know, my son just never recovered from it. No matter what we did, he just never would let him go. It just kept snowballing and snowballing. And
I have to ask, you know that suicide is a very complicated thing. There are a lot of factors. Were there other factors that led to your son's committing suicide?
It was like his spirit was no longer, he wasn't the same kid. He didn't have all that, that energy. He was depressed, he was sad, he was...
So you saw no other factors that may have contributed?
No, it just kept going. He lost his freedom. He was locked up. He was fine until he got him again, and then it just kept going downhill. That's all. He just never could recover, and it was just even when he did hear that Ciavarella was indicted and that this was it'll never happen. He'll never go to jail. He'll never pay for what he did. And I think he just lost hope. And he started drinking, and so all of that played a role in that one devastating night. I don't know, but that was the only thing bad that ever happened in his life, and it's the only thing that ever had any kind of significance on changing his whole personality and his whole outlook on life, and his I don't know, it just seemed like he lost hope, he lost faith. He believed that there was no justice, there was no, he was the bad one. This judge, I want these kids to all know that they were not the bad ones, that he's the bad guy. He was in...
Marcia, what do you hope to get for these children? You've filed suit on their behalf.
We filed suit on their behalf, and we have worked to expunge their records, to reverse their convictions. And I think that really Sandy's son's story typifies what happened to so many of the children in Luzerne County, thousands of children who were pulled before Ciavarella for very, very trivial misconduct, joyriding, possession of drug paraphernalia, minor harassment kinds of charges, shoplifting. They appeared without lawyers. They had hearings that lasted 2 or 3 minutes. They were handcuffed and shackled and led off to placements. And I think that the story of Sandy's son is tragic in ways that none of us can even imagine. But the kind of trauma that all of the kids and families experienced up there as a consequence of the corruption and criminality that was ongoing and this widespread violation of children's constitutional rights is just really extraordinary.
When you talk about wanting an apology, Sandy, it's hard to even imagine how that might affect you, if that's enough for you.
Yeah. No, I could never forgive him. I mean, my son is gone. I'll never have him back. But for him to just finally admit his guilt and stand up there and just say, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry to all these people, and that I was wrong, and, give these kids a little bit of healing and a little bit of, faith in our system that, the right sometimes can be done, and that they are not, these kids, the stories that I'm getting, they're just horrifying, and they need help. They need help.
In all your loss, clearly you're speaking so forthrightly about your son. His life mattered.
Yes.
You've made that very clear today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much, Marcia, for being here today.